Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Break. It's Steve Barrett, Editorial Director of PR Week, and I'm here with Claudia Romo Edelman, who's the founder of We Are All Human. How are you doing, Claudia?
I'm so great to be back.
Yes, good to see you. And first of all, tell us what We Are All Human is. And you've got your Hispanic Leadership Summit taking place this week. Normally, you'd be up at the UN, I guess, but you're doing it virtually. So talk us through it.
So We're All Human is a non-for-profit based in New York to advance diversity and inclusion as a way to achieving equity, pretty much helping companies to create inclusive environments. And so this week we have the Hispanic Leadership Summit, December 7, 8, and 9. You rightly said so. We should be at the United Nations, which we have been doing this for 3 years. But this year we can't, so we're doing it with the United Nations, bringing the Hispanic agenda under the Sustainable Development Goals as a framework, because we know that that's a great framework for us to advance our Hispanic agenda, but also that the Sustainable Development Goals for all those global platforms and plans cannot advance without the Hispanic community and other minorities as powerful as we are.
And what do you hope to achieve with the summit? You've got some incredible guests and it's become a high-profile event. What do you hope to achieve from it, especially in a virtual environment?
Well, I mean, like Steve, with this is the first largest national gathering of Latino leaders since the elections and after COVID, and with within the framework of not only the pandemic but social injustice conversations. So we have more than 2,000 participants that will come together to unify under a strategic framework to create a shared agenda to advance our community together with one or two things that we will advance together, and make sure that that agenda is known by the next administration and that we push it through corporate America and the media. So we want to make sure that this new time that is coming out of COVID, we're united, we're discussing, and we have something to output towards decision makers that need to know what Latino leaders want to do with our community and what's important for us.
I'm hearing you use phrases like Latino and Hispanic. I've heard the phrase Latinx. What's the correct label to use these days, or does it not really matter?
I'm glad you asked, because today we were told by Pew, Mark Hugo Lopez, about the recent data research that they did about that. So we are 60 million people, 18% of the population, and growing. In 2050, we will be 1 in every 4. Hello, 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 hola, hello, 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 hola.
That's in the US, yeah?
That's in the US. Sorry. That's only Hispanic Americans.
Yeah.
That's in the US. Guess what? More than 85% of the people, according to Pew, do not care how you call us. They care and how you pay us and how you treat us and how you value us. So if you push us, then we will say, well, I prefer Hispanic, followed by Latino, Latina. Only 2% of the population of the Latino population have ever heard of the word Latinx. And when you push them, they would say, that's a little weird. So overall, you can use whatever you feel comfortable with. As long as you treat us with respect and you see us, you will find a home in everyone. No one really gets offended if you call us Latino, Latina, Hispanic, or Latinx.
Got it. And I see that flag behind you, which I believe is the Hispanic Star. And I think you kind of brought that in last year. You invented that. Tell us about that flag and how it's being used in branding and marketing.
So we treated that as we went to WPP and we said, here's a brief. The brief is this community is powerful, but doesn't know about their power. They're fragmented and unaware of their own contributions to the country. And because we're fragmented, they came up and said, we need a symbol to unify us all. So they came up with that idea, which is the star from the American flag combined with the ñ from Espanol and Portuguese. You put them together, which is what Hispanics are. We're 100% American, 100% Hispanics. Boom, you have a symbol. One symbol to unify us all, whether you're Mexican, Colombian, Venezuelan. If you live in America and you've been first, second, third generation, it doesn't matter. You're Latino, Hispanic, but more than anything, you have to be seen as star, as a contributor, as a positive, as a shining object. America is made of stars and Hispanics are one of them. So we're treating this as a brand. We're using that the same way that you would actually treat a brand. We're using that to represent Latino empowerment, unity, and pride. Companies like Procter & Gamble, IBM, and Grupo Modelo, Bim Suntory, and others are using that to demonstrate that they care, that they are Hispanic friendly, that they care, and they use that in empowering their marketing efforts, using that in their internal and external communications. But also, we're exploring going into licensing so that we can start looking at products. But more than anything, Steve, for us, that symbol for the Hispanic leadership, for the Hispanic community, it gives us a chance to unify and feel proud. So we want to see that what the way the rainbow is for the LGBTQ, we want to see that star, the Hispanic star. We want to see that everywhere in occasions like Hispanic Heritage Month, so that people can actually wear it, but you can visually see companies that care in their windows, in their T-shirts, in their talking points. So that's what this brand is, and it's getting a lot of momentum not only with companies but within the Hispanic community itself.
So you've talked about the size of the Hispanic community and how it's growing, how big it's going to be by 2050, and you've often spoken about how powerful that group of people could be if they acted together. But we saw in the election that it's not so easy to treat a whole group as one, because we saw how very different voting intentions, very different attitudes down in Florida amongst Cuban Americans versus in Arizona amongst Mexican Americans. And so you've got a whole diaspora of 20 plus countries, origin countries. So what is have your thoughts evolved on that at all following the election, and how do you see that moving forward?
No, it's even more. We have 26 different countries of origins in America. So the intention here is that those 26 countries of origin become one when it comes to having a shared agenda. So we don't have to pretend that we don't have differences. We don't have to pretend we're not a monolithic group. We're very different from each other. And it's not only the countries of origin, it's where you are. The Cubans of Miami are very different than the Cubans of Chicago. Forget about the Cubans of Los Angeles. It's all about having a shared dream. And that's exactly what we're doing at the Hispanic Leadership Summit, understanding that all of us have to have in our minds that if we push one or two things together, we will really have transformative results if we do one or two interventions, for example, education and entrepreneurship, or Latinas and upward mobility. So that's what these 3 days will be like, and I want to invite your audiences to be there. The elections. The elections were incredibly important for us to understand, one, we're not a one monolithic group, so you cannot come and expect that you put your all amigo in your normal campaigns and we will react to that. No, nene. We're massive. We want treatment. We want love all the time, not last minute. And the other part is that we need to understand that we have different priorities. And as a group, we need to actually be treated and understood differently, the way that you would actually treat every single American. So what we're trying to do is focus on the things that unite us and not what divides us. And the things that unite us are very clear and very core to corporate America and to the entire country. Helping Hispanics helps America. Helping Hispanics, which are so young, to get education will help companies to have a workforce that is trained. Helping Hispanics to get financial empowerment or a decent job or opportunities or access to capital to grow their small businesses will help America recover from COVID faster. So understanding that Hispanic values are American values, and helping Hispanics helps America, it's exactly what we're trying to do now. What the elections showed is how powerful the Latino vote is, and that there's no going backwards.
Yeah, I think today I saw that Bad Bunny has got #1 on the Billboard charts, and it's the first Spanish language song to be #1 on the charts, which is quite a milestone, isn't it?
Well, it's not only Bad Bunny. I have to tell you, Selena Gomez is the #1 in Instagram ever. The #1 downloaded song ever is Despacito. You have Shakira that has beaten every single record in social media. So it's all about that. It's all there. The most important high ratings in the Super Bowl like in the last decade is Latinas perform, like Hispanic performance. So it's there. It is there and it's happening, and we just want to see, and we will put more pressure on companies precisely on seeing more Latinos in front and behind cameras, seeing how the investment in advertisement goes up, but like seeing it not as a pressure just like from a diversity and inclusion angle, we're not going to come and bark and bite just for nothing. We're going to come and tell you that this is actually growth for you. So we want to make sure that we get all of us together in an organized way so that brands and companies can have access to Latino talent, have access to Latino companies, and have access to Latinos in the way that they have, knowing that we want to be at the parity with the nation. We're 18% of the population, and we want to see represented that way.
So we've seen during COVID, it's been an awful time, obviously. We've seen higher incidences of health problems amongst Black communities. How has COVID impacted the Hispanic community in America?
Hispanics are disproportionately affected by COVID. We're 18% of the population, but 34% of the mortality rates overall, for example, in New York. We are massively exposed because we're essential workers. Up to 20 million essential workers are out there. Latinas are 18% of the nurses, for example, and we make 70% of the salary, our Hispanic nurses. So it is quite clear that through COVID, we saw the incredible how disproportionately affected we are. But here's the point: we're also disproportionately equipped to come out of COVID because we have that resilience, we have that entrepreneurship. So if you close our restaurant, we're going to transform that into a warehouse so that we can start creating masks. So what we need to make sure is that we elevate the agenda for Hispanics. We make sure that companies understand that leaning in towards Hispanics means bringing loyalty for your employees, but also loyalty in the consumer front. And because Hispanics are really not only the youth and the many, but also the purchasing power with $1.7 trillion, this is the way to go. So I say the next decade is called Latino, and that people have to actually start getting educated. That's why the Hispanic Leadership Summit is such a great way to do the right thing and to do the smart thing.
Yeah, and of course, COVID is very personal to you because unfortunately you lost your mum during the summer to COVID after a long fight, and she was a great lady, wasn't she?
So this year has been very, very hard for everybody, and at the personal level, as you say, I saw it firsthand. The last conversation I had with my mom before she went into the first intubation period, she asked me, like, what are you doing work-wise? And I was like, listen, I'm trying to move Latinos to be connected. And like, she was like, no, I don't understand. What are you doing? And so she kept on asking until I said, like, look, I'm trying to move my community from fear to action. And she was like, that's good. That's what we should do. And that's what I'm going to do during this fight. So for 169 days, Steve, she was hospitalized in Mexico, giving it a really good fight to COVID. She actually defeated COVID, and 90 days after being in the hospital, she was able to come out into a recovery house, and I was able to be with her for the last 3 months. But unfortunately, COVID is so harsh that started actually hurting her. Like she had a multi-organ failure overall, but not without leaving it with a lesson of loving, like giving it a good fight to everything that you want to do. And that's exactly what me, my family, my children, and even my husband have learned through this pandemic and through seeing the fight of my mother. That this is the time to actually, like if you're in hell, just keep walking. Just like let's keep walking and crossing it, because this is not over, but we just need to have that mentality of moving from fear to action.
Yeah, well, our commiserations to you and your family. She was a great lady, and there was a obituary of her in the New York Times. People want to look her up. Just tell us her name.
Cecilia Romo. Cecilia Romo, and yes, the obituary of the New York Times was a beautiful piece for my mother, who was an actress after being a basketball player and an economist, a lady who was like literally changed her life a number of times, and taught me that it's not that she was fearless, but she was not going to let fear decide for her life. So she told me that, like you can actually feel fear free or fear controlling, so that you can take the decisions of your life. So here to Cecilia Romo, and thank you for remembering her. Her birthday was yesterday.
Absolutely, and we can tell you follow in her footsteps. So continued good luck, Claudia, with the summit this week and with your agenda moving forwards. And fantastic to catch up. Thanks for joining us on Coffee Break.
Thank you so much, Steve, as always.